Barnwood ghosts in the settling dust, hearing words that have turned to
Beneath this
rust.
seemingly calm blue sky, the world actually harbors a dark secret capable of ending everything in an instant. We live in an era where peace is but a thin illusion, masking profound nuclear tensions behind closed doors. History has repeatedly reminded us that one small mistake or fatal misunderstanding could trigger a firestorm that destroys human civilization forever. Let us delve into the potential causes that could trigger this nuclear apocalypse. The first and most tangible factor is extreme geopolitical shifts. When major powers begin to feel threatened by the dominance of others, diplomacy is often sidelined in favor of military posturing. The competition to be the world's #1 power creates an unstable environment where every move is perceived as an existential threat. In this global chess game, one wrong move by a leader could force an opponent to press the button that should never be pressed.
The global situation is escalating. We must act now. Launch authorization confirmed. Execute the strike.
Natural resource crises are the second, equally dangerous trigger. With a booming population and extreme climate change, the struggle for clean water, fertile land, and energy becomes brutal. When a nation faces total collapse due to a lack of basic resources, nuclear weapons may no longer be seen as a deterrent, but as a weapon of desperation. Wars for survival often ignore moral logic, sharply increasing the risk of nuclear confrontation in arid regions.
A bit! Watch for dust trails! Hold positions!
In the digital age, cyber threats have evolved into an invisible monster. Sophisticated cyber attacks on nuclear command and control systems can create total chaos. Imagine if an anonymous hacker managed to infiltrate a defense network and launch a false attack signal. Within seconds, automated systems would react before humans could verify the truth. A nuclear war could begin not by human command, but by a line of malicious code sent from the shadows of the internet. The integration of artificial intelligence, or AI, into defense systems brings unprecedented new risks. AI designed to process data thousands of times faster than humans might misinterpret a military exercise as a real attack. If decision-making protocols are handed entirely to algorithms, we hand over the fate of humanity to machines without a conscience. A logical error in AI code could be the start of a destruction we cannot stop once it begins automatically.
My fellow citizens,
Human psychology and the egos of leaders also play a crucial role. In high-pressure crisis situations, the fear of appearing weak to the world can drive someone to make irrational decisions. Excessive nationalism and hateful rhetoric can blind common sense, turning small disputes into a deadly war of pride. When dignity is deemed more valuable than the lives of millions, the world stands on the edge of a very dark and deep abyss. Accidental launches are a nightmare that consistently haunts nuclear strategists. History records several incidents where technical failures in radar or satellites nearly triggered a retaliatory strike. Only because of the bravery of one or two individuals who chose not to follow procedure did the world survive. However, we cannot always rely on luck. Technological wear and tear on aging nuclear facilities increase the chances of accidents that could be misinterpreted as planned enemy aggression. Nuclear proliferation, or the spread of these weapons to more countries, exponentially complicates global stability. The more fingers there are on triggers, the more likely someone is to pull one. Small nations that feel cornered may see nuclear weapons as the only way to guarantee their sovereignty. However, This creates a chain reaction where their neighbors also feel the need to possess similar weapons, creating highly unstable regional arms races. Proxy wars often serve as the stage for larger nuclear conflicts. When superpowers fight indirectly through third parties in conflict zones, tensions can easily overflow. If one side feels they are facing a humiliating defeat, they may be tempted to use tactical nuclear weapons on the battlefield. The use of even small-scale nuclear weapons would shatter a decades-old taboo, opening the door to uncontrollable, total nuclear escalation. Extremist groups and non-state actors are the most unpredictable variables. Unlike sovereign states, these groups may not fear nuclear retaliation because they lack fixed territory to defend. If nuclear weapons or radioactive materials fall into the wrong hands via the black market, the world faces the threat of nuclear terrorism. Radical ideological motivations could drive them to use such weapons to create global chaos, regardless of the consequences to themselves. The breakdown of diplomatic communication is the beginning of the end. In times of crisis, direct communication channels between leaders are vital to prevent unintended escalation. If mutual distrust runs so deep that dialogue stops, then worst-case assumptions will fill that information vacuum. Ignorance of an opponent's intentions often forces militaries to prepare for the worst-case scenario, which in turn triggers a similar reaction from the opponent in a deadly, vicious cycle. The failure of deterrence theory is also a major risk. This theory assumes no one will attack because they know they will be destroyed in return. However, deterrence only works if all actors act rationally. If a leader feels they have nothing left to lose, or if they believe a massive first strike could cripple an opponent's ability to retaliate, then the logic of deterrence collapses and triggers a preemptive strike. The emergence of weapons in space adds a new dimension to the nuclear threat. If reconnaissance satellites or communication systems are destroyed by anti-satellite weapons, a nation becomes militarily blind. In the fear of not being able to see what the enemy is doing, they might assume a nuclear strike is on its way. Information blindness amidst high tension is an instant recipe for launching a nuclear strike as a preventive measure before it's too late. A global economic collapse can create domestic instability that forces leaders to divert their people's attention to an external enemy. Aggressive nationalism is often an escape for governments failing to provide for their citizens. In an effort to maintain power, nuclear war rhetoric is used as a propaganda tool. However, words have power, and overheated rhetoric can quickly turn into real military action that cannot be rescinded. Long-standing territorial disputes, especially in religiously or historically sensitive areas, have always been flashpoints. When two nuclear powers fight over the same piece of land, compromise is seen as national betrayal. Small frictions at the border can quickly escalate into full-scale conventional war. If one side begins to lose that conventional war, they might use nuclear weapons as a last resort to stop an enemy invasion of their homeland. Blind nationalism often ignores humanity in favor of false glory. When a nation feels its identity is threatened, they might prefer mutual destruction over submitting to foreign influence. The better dead than surrendered ideology in a nuclear context means doomsday for everyone. Understanding that we are all passengers on the same ship, planet Earth, is the only way to dampen the fires of extreme nationalism that burn the bridges of peace. Technical failures on nuclear-powered submarines carrying ballistic missiles are a hidden threat in the ocean depths. These submarines operate in isolation and are often difficult to contact in real time. If a fire or system failure causes an accidental launch, or if a submarine commander misinterprets the surface situation as the outbreak of war, they have the authority to launch a strike that could annihilate entire continents without warning. Errors in satellite early warning systems can be caused by simple natural phenomena. Sunlight reflecting off high clouds was once mistaken for the heat signature of a launched missile. In a fast-moving world, the time to verify such data is only a matter of minutes. If a decision maker is under intense psychological pressure, they might not wait for secondary verification and immediately order a retaliatory strike against a non-existent threat.
Engaged! Moving into closing fast! Deploying countermeasures now!
The distinction between tactical and strategic nuclear weapons creates a false sense of security. Smaller, tactical nuclear weapons are often seen as usable in limited conflicts without triggering total war. However, history and simulations show that the use of even one nuclear weapon triggers an inevitable escalation. Once that line is crossed, there is no turning path. What begins as a small strike on a battlefield ends with the destruction of major cities worldwide. The loss of mutual trust among global powers is the root of all these causes. When arms control treaties are ignored and military transparency declines, fear becomes the sole guide of foreign policy. Without trust, every defensive action is seen as offensive preparation. We must rebuild bridges of diplomacy and strengthen international law. Only through transparency and cooperation can we ensure that these nuclear shadows never become a scorching reality.
It is. I'm so glad we're here.
Me too.
I love this.
The psychological pressure on individuals in control of nuclear weapons should not be underestimated. Humans are not machines. They can feel tired, stressed, or depressed. In an unstable mental state, the ability to think clearly is lost. A commander who feels desperate or personally threatened might act impulsively. Therefore, the mental health and emotional stability of decision-makers are the most critical, yet often most ignored, national security factors in global defense systems. The butterfly effect in global politics means a small event in one corner of the world can trigger an apocalypse. A political assassination, an uncontrolled protest, or a simple border accident could trigger a series of military alliances that drag nuclear powers into conflict. Our world is deeply interconnected, and no conflict is truly isolated. Awareness of this interconnectedness should make us more cautious in every diplomatic action we take every day. Public panic and mass misinformation can force a government's hand. In the age of social media, rumors of an impending attack can spread faster than light. If millions take to the streets out of fear or demand retaliation for fake news, political leaders may feel pressured to act aggressively to appease the masses. Information literacy and public calm are our last bastions against nuclear escalation driven by unwarranted collective panic.
We need immediate aid and a ceasefire.
The markets are crashing.
We have to go. What? Let me see. Look around, everyone else. All right, stay with me.
We must remember that in a nuclear war,
there are no winners, only losers. Radiation knows no borders, and a nuclear winter would destroy global agriculture, causing mass starvation for those who survive the initial blasts. These shadows are not meant to frighten, but to remind us of how precious life is. Every second we spend in peace is an opportunity to continue fighting for a safer world for our children and grandchildren. The future is not determined by the weapons we possess, but by our courage to lay them down. We have the power to choose the path of diplomacy, empathy, and understanding. Let us make history our teacher, not a script to be repeated. Together, we can keep the light of humanity burning bright, banish the nuclear shadows forever, and build a world where weapons of mass destruction are merely dark artifacts in museums of the past. For Earth, for us all.